Happy Friday, everybody. It's Jim, it's Matt, and Matthew. We have got one of probably the biggest sports weekends that we've had in a long time. You've got the NBA All Star game, you've got the running of the Daytona 500, you've got the Pebble Beach Pro Am, you've got the Olympics. Um, man, I'll tell you, and you get the start of spring training. So there's quite a bit of things to cover here today. And, you know, the NBA All Star Weekend, which will begin tonight, is being played out in Inglewood at the Intuit Dome. That's the new building, not the Crypto Dome, which is we all used to know as the Staples Center. Intuit Dome is, if you're out in Los Angeles or if you drop by the Los Angeles area, it's on the other end of where SoFi Stadium is in that sports complex. It's where the Clippers play, and it's a gorgeous facility. Anyway, that's where they're going to be. It's going to be. I've always liked the skills competition, but this year they're trying something different for them, and that's the world versus the U.S. and that might be entertaining.
Yeah. What's it called? Sorry. Adam Silver just continues to try new things in hopes of revitalizing this.
Right.
What has really become like a relatively dead All-Star weekend. Like, if I remember correctly, Damian Lillard is participating in the 3-point contest.
Yes.
Damian Lillard has not played a professional basketball game this year. So they're starving for names in this stuff because they're just not incentivized to do it anymore. The dunk contest, I guarantee you, they're probably going to have a G League player or two in there. Like they wrung every last drop out of the Mac McClung dunk contest run. I think they could have, and that's just because he was a big name really going into high school. Like he made his name on like the overtime circuits and stuff like that. He was a high 4-star prospect. If I remember correctly, went to Georgetown for a while. I think transferred.
Not for long, but yeah.
And ultimately landed in the G League. Was for the Orlando Magic. I don't know if he still is. I think he was for the Magic and the Sixers actually. And they wrung that dry. So they are trying everything they can. Their attempts at this point have been futile at best, though. It's just not been enough. And they've retooled it. Maybe it'll work. I'm curious to see the ratings that come back out of this weekend. But in terms of how big an event it is on the national radar, I was unaware that it was this weekend, to be quite frank and honest with you.
Well, I mean, you've got so much going on, competing with the Olympics, competing with, the situation with NASCAR. There might be people who don't watch NASCAR, all year long, but the one race they will watch is the Daytona 500. Yeah. So you've got that going on, and then you've got NBC, who is spread thin because they're running, they're basically running the Olympics. Now they've got the All-Star weekend in there. Now tonight's game, which is the NBA All-Star Celebrity Game, starts at 7 o'clock on ESPN and the ESPN app for those of you who are interested in it. Being in Los Angeles, you would assume that they could come up with a few pretty interesting stars who might want to play some hoops on the court out there, have some fun with it.
Yeah, they one of the people I saw they had in it just popped up on my feed throughout my endless scrolling. Was that one of the ladies off of the Secret Lives of Mormon Wives is on this is playing in this game.
Okay.
So, yeah, they're pulling out all the stops for it being in LA.
Okay, all right. By the way, if one of the actual interesting and fun parts of NBA weekend is the HBCU Classic. Unfortunately, for those of you on the East Coast, which would be us, that's a tip at 11 p.m. on Peacock.
Oh,
So, um, if you want to watch the Mormon wives play basketball at 7, you can do that. But if you're thinking maybe, just maybe, I'd rather watch the actual game between the two schools from the HBCU. Um, you're gonna have to wait till 11 o'clock for that one. So
maybe hit a little power nap in the
right,
middle
yeah,
of the celebrity game and wake
right,
back up for that for
right,
the
right,
night.
right, right. Get to that point, yeah. Um, there's gonna be some high powered college basketball this weekend as well.
Hmm.
So we'll keep an eye on that for a moment. But yeah, the Friday night's hook right here is you can bounce between the Rising Stars game on Peacock
Hmm.
and then take in some late college hoops on ESPN and Fox. So you got some opportunities here to watch some basketball and a little bit of racing on FX1. I'm sorry, FS1. So yeah, there's stuff going on.
I'm
Saturday, go
I
ahead.
I was just gonna say tonight I'm more apt to toss on the Big Ten Network and watch number one Penn State go up against number two Ohio State in wrestling than I am to watch the Celebrity All Star game.
When you said number one Penn State, I'm thinking, what did I miss something here?
Yeah, they've been great in a sport that you've never heard of. No, it's wrestling. One of
Well,
the
I'll tell you what's funny about that. Our colleague Sean, you know, Sean Miller.
Mhm.
Sean knows these kids. Most of them are from Northern Jersey,
Yeah,
and I mean, it's huge. High school wrestling in the state of New Jersey is massive, in Pennsylvania.
yeah,
So yeah, it doesn't surprise me. Penn State's in there. Iowa used to always be in there.
yeah. Hey, Penn
I
State in
yeah,
their wrestling program, what Kale
mhm,
Sanderson's done,
yeah,
it's a dynasty that's probably greater than Nick Saban at Alabama. It's better than Bill Belichick and Brady. It's
mhm,
better than all of these things, but you just don't hear about it because it's wrestling.
right. Well, you just heard about it. Thank you for
Yeah,
bringing it up. And it's on, as you just said, it's on the Big Ten Network tonight. So there you go.
I think it's 7.
Saturday, in Los Angeles, again, we have the All Star Saturday night. In Daytona, it's the undercard, which is the ARCA race, the Xfinity race. And then, of course, they'll have cup practice for those who like to watch the the cars get ready for the race. But let's start with All Star Saturday. The league's official schedule has the NBA All Star Media Day beginning around early afternoon, which is your on the on NBA TV. You can watch that. That's kind of like it's kind of like they meet the media, the players who are playing in the All Star game meet the media, and then they switch the red carpet thing, so you can see that. Commissioner Adam Silver always has his news conference scheduled, which is mid afternoon on NBA TV, so you get to see that. He'll talk about what's going on, talk about the potential of expansion, talk a little bit about the media rights deal, which they've already done, and perhaps, I assume so, uh, address the international situation where they're talking about um, putting together the NBA's European um, component, which frankly makes a hell of a lot of sense given all the work that has been done to build a very strong league. I mean, we talk about the G League. I think an NBA worldwide league would be far more entertaining.
Oh yeah, yeah, absolutely. Like it gives you better international reach because for all the work that David Stern did in making it a more international game, and
Mhm,
that is true, and it's grown. But I still think there's a large opportunity for growth in those international audiences outside of what's already been done, and it's
mhm.
given you a better product. It's given you a better product in France. It's given you a better product in some of South America as well. But there's still plenty of room for growth for the sport of basketball overseas.
Well, think about it this way. I mean, we know what the Champions League means in soccer, right?
Mm-hmm.
What would be what fun would it be to see the best team in Europe take on the best team in the NBA in what truly would be a world championship basketball tournament?
Oh yeah, I mean that would be better. I feel like that's a large criticism of a lot of the major sports leagues. Is like,
Mhm,
and it's brought up after the Super Bowl, and it's the least valid after the Super
mhm,
Bowl. But it's like they'll take it and they'll block the rest of the world out and just highlight the United States and throw in quotes
mhm,
world champions. So it's definitely something that is worth like actually being decided. I think the Olympics is probably the truest form of world champions, but
mhm,
when people criticize the Super Bowl for calling themselves world champions,
mhm,
I would love to see Canada get together their best CFL team and take on the Seahawks. Go ahead and take
mhm.
them down.
It would be interesting. Um, let's go back over to the 3-point contest we all are very aware of. Skills challenge. Here's where things get to be a little bizarre. The feature the NBA stars, some, and this is what this is. I'm quoting now. Possibly G League stars or WNBA stars with tie-ins, and that's. I mean, the fact that they can't even define who the hell is going to be there
Yeah.
is a little telling to me. It's like, well, maybe a G League guy will show up, or who's. I mean, for God's sake! I mean, this is the uh, this is your showcase, and you're telling me you're going to slip G League people in on me? I mean,
Well,
come
I
on.
mean, if they really just want to drive some ratings, let's get Charles Bediako on the phone. Let's get him out to LA.
Right?
That's a name that'll bring you some numbers in terms of, I
Yeah.
don't know where they're going to stick him. I don't know if he's a viable option for any of their contests, but
Well, they got Bron James in the dunk contest, which is crazy because Bron James isn't the kind of guy who goes and does dunks. It's not
he's
his.
six,
It's
six
not his
foot
game.
one.
I know. I'm just telling you. I mean, maybe he's going to use a step ladder. I have no idea.
Is dad gonna prop him up?
Yeah, that's the deal. He's going to be on his. You remember, as a child, he was on his father's shoulders. Maybe now, although given the shoulders that LeBron has had in the past few years, it may not be a good idea for him to get on his father's shoulder.
I mean, I
Um,
guess they just said this is the closest we're getting to having LeBron in the dunk contest. Like
well, and then
the
I mean,
name.
the thing is, right? You're NBC. You've got the Olympics. I'm preempting the Olympics for this crap. I mean, seriously?
Yeah, that's tough, but you know, I feel like they have to.
Well, they're contractually obligated to.
Yeah.
So yeah, they do have to. Um,
Out of
so
curiosity, did NBC like negotiate for this when they did their deal with the NBA?
yeah, I mean, they
They
had to know
wanted
it.
they wanted the All-Star game on their networks.
Well, I don't know that they wanted it. It's a rotating, right?
Okay.
So the All Star weekend and game um, would be on NBC this year, and then it's on ESPN ABC next year. So I mean, they're doing the rotation thing, but they wanted the first rotation. Well, they had to. I mean, geez, they bid on the Olympics and got the Olympics 5 years ago.
Yeah.
So it's not
Yeah.
like they didn't know.
Yeah.
And as a matter of fact, Tarico's the guy who's supposed to do the call of the game. He's going to be in Italy.
Oh Lord, are they flying?
No, 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 no,
Oh, okay.
no,
Good.
no,
Good.
no. They're not flying him to Los Angeles.
I mean, I would have started to. I know he's got a fantastic job. I would have started to feel bad for the guy if he had to fly back to LA from Milan.
Young Mr. Eagle will be handling the play-by-play. Noah's going to do the play-by-play on that, and he'll do a fine job.
Yeah.
So there you go on that. As I said before, when we're talking Fox on FS1 has on Saturday, they have the ARCA 200. Uh, that runs at noon. Gives you a chance to get into the early afternoon. A little appetizer there for you. NASCAR Series holds a Daytona 500 practice session from 3 to 3:55, being specific there. And then The NASCAR Xfinity Series gets a green flag at 5 o'clock, and that's over on the CW. For those of you interested in what's going on there, so the CW and CW, FS1, and NBC and Peacock are all going to be uh, checking out what's going on in early evening for that. So you'll have a full day of the one thing from an Olympic standpoint.
Hmm.
At least the fact is that they can start early on Saturday morning, and you're going to get some really good events in a live format.
Yeah.
So that part of it doesn't bother me much. I think that's going to be um, the talking points for the afternoon. By the way, is there's ranked matchups in every one of the major conferences.
Hmm.
They're going to be on ABC, ESPN, CBS, and Fox. Um, there's also a couple of what we might call Big East and Mountain West, a couple of American and A10 bubble situations where you're getting some good basketball for the G5 divisions and seeing what they're going to be able to do. So that definitely is going to be helpful at that situation from there. So we'll get to see some of the good games over the weekend. Um, let's see. We were talking about this the other day. Um, is there five teams in college basketball at this time that we could say, okay, well, these five teams are going to fight for the four number one seeds?
Oh, Arizona's one of them.
Yeah,
I
for
think
sure.
that's obvious. Michigan's one of them. I think that's obvious. Duke,
UConn, maybe.
Duke, I think is one. UConn probably in the Big East. I think UConn, at least in terms of the Big East as a whole this year,
Mhm.
has gotten a bit of a lucky draw in the fact that I don't think the Big East is very strong this year
Yeah.
compared to other years. So they got a good draw there, and they'll probably have a pretty good record coming out of that conference. And to go along with that, they have like what Dan Hurley has done over the past 3 years
Hmm.
has been good enough to give UConn the benefit of the doubt when it comes to their seeding, like in
Hmm.
terms of the way people think about them perceptionally, because they won back-to-back national titles, and then you go back to last year. Well, they lost in the round of I think it was in the round of 32 they lost to Florida, but they had every opportunity. Like I was watching that basketball game. I think UConn should have beat Florida last year. Florida obviously went on to win the national championship last year as
Hmm.
well. So Dan Hurley has built a brand at UConn over the past 3 years that I think in that committee room when it comes selection Sunday will probably get the benefit of the doubt over a team that has not been there as consistently.
One of the things about Dan Hurley is if he didn't get it, he'd probably go into that room and beat the hell out of somebody.
It's very
Uh,
possible, yeah.
Dan Hurley, I, I got to tell you, I love watching Dan Hurley coach. I mean, man, oh man, if there's somebody who rags on the officials, good lord, I'm surprised officials have not, decided they're not even going to do his games, um, because I haven't seen a guy like that since Knight. Now, there's a difference, obviously. Hurley is a one liner machine. He's hilarious. Um, Most of what would be said uh, from Bob would have been, would have had to be on a 7 second delay because that's pretty much he cursed them the entire time. And in fairness to John Thompson, did too. So he wasn't the only one. But yeah, Dan Hurley, um, the players that I mean, they just love playing for this guy. I
Hmm.
mean, he goes and his mo is give me the best kids who play street ball in New York, Philly, and Boston, and I'm good.
Yeah. And this is just a guy that I have knowledge of, but they went out in the transfer portal and they got Silas Demery Jr. out of
Mhm.
Georgia. And Demery Jr., I think, probably fits what they like to do because he wasn't a guy that had a high volume of shots, but he was a guy that facilitated the offense mainly for Georgia. He was 6'5". He played really good defense at the guard position. He moved the ball in transition, and his first thought wasn't scoring. He can score, but that was not his first thought. And I think it works well when you have guys like Carabin and Ball, who are more volume shooters typically, that can put up big nights shooting the ball.
Yeah. I think that, it's not – Hurley doesn't play the portal often. But when he does, he usually hits for him.
Yeah.
So whatever homework is being done by the UConn team out there from a standpoint of going and researching this, they only go for one or two guys a year, but normally the one or two guys they get are pretty damn good.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's what Demery was a big blow to Georgia. I think it's a big blow that Georgia's feeling right now in terms of where they're at with their basketball team, because they can't control pace, and that's what Demery was doing a really good job of.
Yeah, I was watching the Georgia-Florida game the other night, and you had mentioned earlier that Georgia's chaos could help, and in a way, for a while, it did. But what's starting to get interesting is Florida's starting to get guard play again.
Yeah. They went out in the portal and they got Xavier Lee, I believe, of Princeton or Yale. He was an
Ivy guy.
Yeah, he was an Ivy League guard. Xavier Lee was. They got him. I think he was roughly like
Princeton.
Princeton. Okay. Yeah. So I think he was like roughly 19 point per game score last year at Princeton, and he started off the season really bad. Then you go back and you look at that game against Georgia. They're on the road. Georgia's still a solid basketball team, and he filled it up in terms of his shooting from outside the arc. He did a really good job there. Boogie Flan had a bucket when they went on that run to separate them, because in that game on Wednesday, Georgia went on a couple runs where they got it down to single digits. And where if Florida had blinked, they definitely could have given the game back, really, really let them feel like they were back in it. But every time Georgia got it down to 9 or 10 points, Florida would answer with another 7-0 run of their own. And the last one they got was off the backs of Lee and Fland, who were the two big transfer portal guards that they got. But another big thing they're doing is they're defending really well right now as well, too.
Yeah, and they're scoring off defense.
Yeah.
Which they did a lot on Georgia.
Yeah, but hey, listen, if you're playing Georgia, I mean, just dear God.
Don't use them as a measuring stick.
Yeah, they're kryptonite. I mean, you set a high ball screen and put Santos Surreal in a place where he has to hedge a screen. He's lost. Like, he is a really good shot blocker, and he's really good. He would probably be great in more of a zone scheme, but this switching man that Georgia runs, they just open themselves up for all kind of. I watched them. They scored all night off of a high ball screen where they just didn't hedge, and then later in the game when they started to hedge a little more, Georgia did. They screened and rescreened and had wide open cutters coming off the screens. I mean, it was such simple action that's putting them in just a world of stress.
Yeah, and it's what they do, when they're doing it well. When Golden has got his guys going, that's what happened. All right, so I'm going to jump in here and do a real quick Daytona 500. There's a lot of guys who are really good. I like Joey Logano, number 22 in yellow, the Ford Mustang out of Roger Penske's group. I like the way that they've, Joey won last night in one of the duels, so he's going to be sitting right behind, the pace setter, and I do like Logano to take the Daytona 500. His partner Ryan Blaney is right there with him. I wouldn't be surprised if Blaney, stole the show from him, but I think those are your two guys to watch. And again, one of the great things about Daytona, if you like watching race crashes, you're going to see it. And if Logano and Blaney can stay out of trouble, which is not as easy as it sounds, then they'll be in good shape. Otherwise, it could be a very wild night, as it normally is. and that's a 2:30 start. It's on Motor Racing Network. You can go to all this stuff we're talking about right now. Go to Sports Talk Florida. It will be you'll have information on it there. In the case of the Daytona race, we've got the link, so you don't have to go anywhere to find it. Just link in, and it'll take you right to the Motor Racing Network. You'll be able to listen to the entire weekend's worth of Daytona content uh, right from our site. So by all means, check that out. We will have links also to the big college basketball games, so you can listen to them if you, for whatever reason, choose not to want to watch them, or if you want to play the screen game, you got that. If you got Sirius XM radio, I highly recommend. If you're going to watch something else and listen to the golf, they do an outstanding job of covering golf, and they're going to be doing it again. So by all means, check that out too. Now, you had a couple of things you wanted to chat before we got out of here about, my
Mm-hmm.
friend, and the floor is yours.
Yeah, Bediako, the Charles Bediako ruling came down. That one was big for the NCAA in terms of upholding their principle that if you've signed, like if you've willingly left college, signed a professional contract,
Hmm.
and attempted to return to college, that was deemed for the time not good enough for a TRO. We'll put it that way because technically the official ruling hasn't been handed down. The TRO is just denied temporary restraining order, which would have allowed Charles Bediako to continue playing. What we got yesterday was an official ruling on Trinidad Chambliss and his eligibility entering the 2026 season.
Hmm.
And ultimately, the Mississippi State Circuit Court judge, the Mississippi State Circuit judge, ruled in favor of Trinidad Chambliss. In fact, the way the case went and the general feeling that the NCAA attorneys got, they did not stick around for the final ruling. Um, like they left. After the judge went to his chambers, they left the courtroom. They did not return to hear the final ruling. If I remember correctly, I think he read his ruling. I think it was an hour long in terms of how
Wow.
long he went about it. It was a long one. I think what he may have been doing it in really touching every base of that is I think there's a legitimate case, and I don't know how much it plays into, but you go through and you watch those proceedings and really just the courtroom in general, and I think you have a legitimate case for bias there against the NCAA in favor of Ole Miss. But when you go through and give a ruling as descriptive as his, it kind of removes all doubt of that.
Hmm.
Um, and it was something that I really thought he was going to get regardless, just because based on the evidence and the circumstances surrounding it, everything did seem to point to Trinidad Chambliss having a medical issue that prohibited him from playing football in 2022, which would have granted him a medical red shirt. It's not uncommon. Plenty of people used it. Plenty of people have played 6 years of college football because of it. He took a regular red shirt. He got a medical
Hmm.
red shirt because of an illness. That's pretty standard practice in terms of the NCAA and where their eligibility rules stand in reference to, because it's all these cases are important because you're trying to stress like how are we pushing the NCAA's eligibility rules and the way they've been presented. Does this court case give you something that really bucks against what the NCAA has in their rule book in terms of the eligibility? This one doesn't really meet that criteria. Um, he got granted his eligibility, I think, as he should have. But the one that is most important, I believe, is happening today. And that's going to be the ruling on Tennessee quarterback Joey Aguilar,
Hmm.
um, that court case. Because what Aguilar and his team are essentially trying to argue is that if the judge sides with them, it gives precedent to a new pathway to eligibility for extended eligibility into college. Because what they're
Hmm.
arguing is that JUCO years just flat out do not count towards your eligibility. Joey Aguilar played junior college football for a while. Then he transferred to App State. Then he transferred to UCLA. Then he transferred to Tennessee. All of those not individual spots that he lasted a year. He spent 1 year at App State. initially transferred to UCLA. Nico Iamaleava entered the transfer portal. Joey Aguilar was the subsequent entrance to the transfer portal when that happened, and they just flipped schools. Iamaleava is now at UCLA. Aguilar was obviously at Tennessee this past year as well. So
Wow.
if they rule in favor of Aguilar, it's something that spans outside of just college football. Like this now impacts every other sport, because what you've done is you set the precedent that in this case, JUCO years do not matter. So it opens up extra eligibility for every sport, every conference, no matter where you are, that if you have played junior college ball and that is counted against your eligibility, those years are now moot. And you
Hmm.
have a legitimate court case to get eligibility going forward. And that's where you get into a dangerous spot where, say this guy spends a couple years in JUCO, then he transfers to my big D1 school.
Mhm.
What if we get him to take a red shirt? What if he needs a medical red shirt? I mean, because now you're talking like now this guy could transfer in and his eligibility starts over. Like he's spent 2 years at JUCO, but when he gets to that D1 school, this is his first 4 years now. He's a freshman in the eyes of the NCAA at that point, or at least he had to be treated as such in the eyes of the NCAA at that point. So then you're starting to get into these red shirts, and now you're talking about guys that could be like 29, 28, 29, 30 years old playing NCAA college football. And the only time we've had somebody that's been like 30 years old playing college football was when Miami took a punter from Australia that never had any professional experience and
Right.
only rugby and offered him a scholarship.
There was a back in the day, not 30 years old, but there was back in the day. You may recall that because BYU had a missionary um, exclusion where kids would go right out of college and or while they're in college actually, and go out and serve in a mission, that when they returned for their senior year, they had to come back to BYU for their senior year, that they could play on the football and basketball teams. So you're talking guys that might have been as old as 25, maybe, but more 24, 25. And so back in those days, I mean, 21 was you were out of school.
Yeah.
So it's unless you had the red shirt, which maybe you got 22. But so the big news was that, my God, they've got guys they're 24, 25. Well, 24, 25 isn't that strange anymore.
Yeah, and I think part of the problem that comes into this college sports and this college realm is the age of roster matters. Like you saw that in the national championship this past year. The average age of those Miami rosters, of the Miami roster and the Indiana roster, were somewhere in the neighborhood of like 22 or 23 years old, which is you're talking seniors and super seniors at that point, primarily making up the majority of your rosters. And it matters for a couple of reasons. It matters for the fact that you've had more time to develop, like just in terms of your game and your understanding of the sport. You have had more time than anybody else. Also, it stands to be important because the generally agreed upon time for a male athlete's prime is it set to open around 27 to 28 years old. So when you start getting into that, and if these eligibility rules were to pass and they were to go to JUCO and they were to get that extra development in those extra years, then that's pushing you into these guys where they're in their peak physical prime, potentially going against 18, 19, 21-year-old kids. And it's not a matter of like, I don't think it's a security thing as much. Like I don't think these 28-year-olds are going to go out there and kill one of these 5-star 19-year-olds in terms of like physically, but what they are going to be is they're going to be a step ahead. And to be honest with you, it's just flat out going to be a little bit of an unfair advantage these guys have been given, because now these 18-year-olds are coming into a college atmosphere where I no longer am going against 19-year-olds. I'm no longer going against 20-year-olds. I'm going against the guy I'm lining up against. He's 27. He has 3 kids. Like, what am I supposed to do here? So they'll be able to hold up. I don't think it's necessarily unfair in that aspect, but I think it's unfair to the sport of college football. I think it's unfair to sports in general, in collegiate. in collegiate.
Sometimes it works out, sometimes it doesn't, right?
Yeah,
Um,
I think we have to cross our fingers and hope that the NCAA sent their B team down to Mississippi yesterday, and they're sending the A team to Knoxville.
I don't think their A team or B team is pretty that much different. They
No,
haven't.
I think
It's
they
not
got dumb
exactly.
and dumber knocked around in those
Yeah, their
courtrooms.
court record has not been really good.
A lot of L's. I think Betty
Yeah,
is the only win they've got on the board right now.
there you go. Take the win, boys. Yeah, in wrapping this up, what you're talking about, I have had. I was speaking one day, um, and talking about running backs and specifically, and they said, look, this kid's 23, 24, right? That's coming out. How many productive years is he going to have in the NFL? Because there's a lot of mileage on those wheels.
Hmm. Yeah, and there's positions where it will. I think it would be less beneficial to stay running back is the
Mhm.
most glaring of those
Right.
positions. Um, and there's still risks involved. Like you're still at
Mhm.
risk of injury when you're in college as well.
Sure.
But you worry about people attempting to abuse this in a way because with the money that's being thrown around in college athletics,
Yeah.
if you're a top end college guy that doesn't have fantastic pro prospects, and I know what people are probably gonna think that that's a rather counterintuitive statement, but it's just
Mhm.
flat out not. Like there are guys that you see in the NCAA, they'll go out and they'll like in college basketball, they'll go out and they'll ball out and they don't have NBA draft hopes. Like there are guys that are going to play fantastic football at the NCAA levels that do not project well at the next
Mhm.
level. And if you open this door up, it's going to open them up to stick around and be as good for as long because NIL is a thing and they can
Mhm.
make a really good living off of it while they're allowed to.
Absolutely. All right. Well, very cool. Um, all right, boys and girls, we are going to get out of here. And once again, have a great weekend. All the information you're going to want to know about from sports, check us out at Sports Talk Florida, Sports Talk Florida, sportstalkflorida.com, and sportstalknyfan.com. And we will be back on Monday, and hopefully we'll have a chance to chat about more about baseball and see what's going on at that point. We'll start analyzing each and every team because we have a little bit of time to get ready for that. So until that time, guys, have a safe and very enjoyable weekend. As we said, there's plenty to watch. So enjoy and have a good time.